Welcome everyone to the first round of the Fall KNC. The first BP KNC, this is awesome. In opening government today we have Underwood Union B, in opening opposition Edis G, closing government Day H, closing opposition Can Do A. With great pleasure I invite the first speaker, the Prime Minister, to start the speech.
May I begin? Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members of the House. Today, the opening government recognizes a problem inside society, and we define this problem as being defamatory articles against one individual and against one victim, Mr. Speaker. We see the monetary, psychological, or any kind of losses which victims are feeling right now in today's society because of the criminals posting the internet contents which are defamatory articles. So today we would like to ask the government, would like to solve this problem by having the internet content host partially liable for defamatory articles. And today we have a substantive model and three arguments in today's debate. First argument would be why governmental intervention is justified in today's debate, and secondly, why internet content hosts should be partially liable in today's society. And thirdly, my second speaker will be talking about the benefits and losses of today's policy, Mr. Speaker. So before I move on to my substantive points, I would like to define today's model and explain today's model of how this will work in today's society. We would like to first define some keywords in this motion. One, for the defamatory articles. We would like to say that there are three criteria for defamatory articles. First, we think the defamatory article should contain the false message or information published to the third person of that society. And secondly, we are thinking of this information imposing humiliation or any kind of loss to the victims. And thirdly, we think that the criminals had the intention of the crime of putting up that article in the first place on the internet place. So we will use the three kind of criteria as defamatory article in today's debate, Mr. Speaker. Secondly, we would like to define internet content hosts as any kind of website runners. We would like to have this kind of this debate big, Mr. Speaker. We like to include a creator of that internet website and the creator of that internet community, Mr. Speaker. So we like to include everyone which are creating and hosting those kind of internet content. So thank you. And we think that we like to lastly define what we mean by partially liable. We like to open the internet content host to any kind of legal liability in today's society, which means that we will put them for the prosecution, not for the immediate criminalizing process for them, Mr. Speaker. And secondly, we like to put as partially liable as always being a little less than the burden of that individual criminal, because we think that they should have a lesser burden than the criminal themselves. So I'd like to move on to my two standing points now, Mr. Speaker. So firstly, we like to explain why government intervention should be justified in today's debate. Yeah. We think that when harms are done to the individuals in the society, the government has every right to intervene in that kind of harms to be not done to any kind of third party, Mr. Speaker. So we think that harming other individuals, in this case, in today's debate, the defamatory actions does actually stand in today's debate, because we have already told you that the defamatory article should include the losses or any kind of losses paid by the individuals. And we think that we like to provide two kinds of analysis on this point. Firstly, in the case of public figure, and secondly, in the case of private individuals, Mr. Speaker. So firstly, in the case of public figures, we think the losses suffered by the public figures are even greater than the private individuals, because the economic losses they have to undergo, and secondly, the societal sufferings they have to undergo, Mr. Speaker. We think that in the case of Tabulum, Mr. Speaker, as we have already seen in the video, he has lost a lot of advertisements because of defamatory articles put onto him, and we think that also this exclusion from society, because people will see him or her in a different way. No, thank you. In a false way, Mr. Speaker. He or she will be excluded from the society. And we have seen these cases, so many cases, not only inside Korea but also in the international cases. So we think that government has every right to intervene in this case. No, thank you. In this case, and to limit the freedom of the freedom of the individuals. And we think that the freedom of expression in this case should be limited because it is harming another individual, Mr. Speaker. And we think that when the freedom of expression gets excessive, as in this case, as in today's debate, we think that this should be banned. And second, analysis of private individuals, Mr. Speaker, we think that private individuals can be excluded from the society when they're subjected to defamatory articles, because as we have seen in the case of Korea, Mr. Speaker, when some girl posted a defamatory article about a boyfriend, the boyfriend had to suffer from getting excluded. No, thank you, getting excluded from a company, and not only from the company but also from his family and also from his friends, Mr. Speaker. So having seen this, we think that this imposes a very critical harm to not only public figures, no, thank you, but also for the private individuals. So secondly, moving on to why the responsibility of internet content hosts have. So we have two levels of analysis to this. Firstly, we'd like to point out that we cannot let them as the bystanders of the crime. We think that in the principle of law of punishment, when the bystander has the capacity to intervene and to limit the crime, they have the responsibility to keep the crime from not happening. And secondly, keep the responsibility of not happening. No, thank you. We think that in this case, the capacity is very evident for the internet content host, because firstly, the internet content host can see all of the articles that are put out in his or her community, Mr. Speaker. And secondly, because we think that given the current society's searching system on the internet, they can easily monitor the internet than before, Mr. Speaker. So this is why the problem becomes more conspicuous in the status quo, and it's easier to solve for the internet content hosts in today's debate. And second analysis, Mr. Speaker, we think that they have the more responsibility to solve this problem, because we're not saying that any kind of freedom of expression should be banned in today's debate, but we're saying that when it's a crime, when it's defamatory articles harming another individual, this should be banned because of the moral responsibility of those internet content hosts. So what we have so far told you today, Mr. Speaker, we have told you what the defamatory articles are, what the internet, who the internet host should be personally liable, and why the government has the right to intervene in today's debate. And secondly, and lastly, why the responsibility of internet hosts should be debated in today's society. So for all of these reasons, the government is very proud to propose this motion.
Right, we thank the Prime Minister for her speech and now invite the first speaker of opposition, the Leader of Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, internet content hosts exist to encourage speech within its realm. At times we see certain information being posted up, but never do they explicitly take a certain stance about a defamatory article posted up within its realm. Mr. Speaker, when it comes to slander or hate speech or any information that harms another individual, we already see in the status quo that the society takes action. We see that language that hurts already is banned and society condemns this. However, Mr. Speaker, what we believe that the problem is that you should not blame the wrong party when the one who is responsible is right in front of you. We say, Mr. Speaker, that the goal on the opposition is going to be that we want to punish the right people and we want to be fair for when it comes to internet content hosts. But before, in my speech, I'm going to be talking about two major things. Firstly, I'm going to be talking about where exactly does the responsibility lies and why exactly should it not be the internet content content host and should be the individual who posted up that information in the very first place. Secondly, I'm going to be talking about the objectivity about the decision the government is making right now, because we don't think that what they're thinking, what the policy that they want to pass is something objective and going to actually help the many people who happen to be a part of this problem. But before I go on to these arguments, let me rebut to several things that the previous speaker has said. Now, the problem, Mr. Speaker, throughout her whole speech is that they did not prove how the responsibility should be shared when the information originates from one individual who posted up these information from the very beginning. Please take a seat. Many of the things she said, actually, Mr. Speaker, is something that we can't agree with, because it's no different with the status quo of liberal democracies. For example, the first thing that she told us, why should government intervene and why is that justified? We agree with the many things she told us, Mr. Speaker, about the Tableau incident and the boyfriend being hurt. We agree that these people have been hurt, but doesn't mean that we should be telling to these internet content hosts that now they're the ones who are responsible as well. They agreed, Mr. Speaker, from their model from the very beginning, that the criminal should have an intention. The criminal has to be the one who had the intention in the very first place when they posted up this article. So why are you blaming other people who happen to just give an area for them to post this information? Another thing she told us, Mr. Speaker, was that now they are partially reliable and that responsibility lies within the company. But Mr. Speaker, what we see right now is that in status quo, companies already take responsibilities. When it comes to information being posted up and hurts other individuals, companies already go and eliminate those contents and these comments and articles if it's too much for anyone to handle. So let me go on to the first argument of what we like to provide to you on the opposition side. Firstly, it's going to be about the responsibility. Where exactly does this lie? Now, Mr. Speaker, when it comes to internet content, they already take, we see already internet content hosts taking responsibility, as I told you before. They erase information that are posted up, and they allow users to report this information when certain people write certain things that harm on within their territory. For example, we see in YouTube when comments are too vulgar and when it hurts the individual who posted up that video, we see the companies actually taking responsibility and taking that off and allowing the people who posted up this information take down that comment as well. They already take full responsibility. We think that's unfair. So where exactly does the intent, where should we blame and where does the intention actually lie? It begins from the people who posted up this information with the intention to hurt others. The moment you post up this information, it does not reflect the host's perspective on that individual or group and the comment of the article was about. We don't think that article itself being posted up should automatically mean so easily to blame. We shouldn't easily blame the internet content host. For example, Mr. Speaker, when it came to a celebrity named Tristan in Korea, when she committed suicide, it was the one who posted up a comment on this individual who took the blame, and these internet content hosts were able to track this individual down. We say, Mr. Speaker, that it's that individual that we have to blame, not the people who posted this information up. The reason these hosts exist in the first place, Mr. Speaker, is to allow freedom of speech to flourish and allow these individuals to say certain opinions. No ill intention exists with this internet content host. They don't encourage these kind of defamatory articles, and they have defamatory articles in the very beginning. So what the government side has to do and come up, the next speaker, is have to prove that they are a part of this and joining with the ones who put the information up on the internet. Before I go into the next, yes.
They have the capacity of knowing what articles are because they have the technology and they have been retaining information for so long. The negative effects have been taking place. Don't you think that somehow go?
Again, Mr. Speaker, what he said just right now is something that these internet content hosts already do. They already know where exactly this information is being posted up, and they know that these users already want the internet content hosts to take responsibility, and they do take responsibility when it comes to these kind of articles that harm other individuals. Secondly, the objectivity. When you make these kind of decisions, Mr. Speaker, like the policy the government has given us, you really need to know what exactly would happen after you make these two parties take responsibility. Because what they want to do is be really wishy-washy and have the responsibility scattered around. But especially when you're saying that they should only take partial responsibility. When you have to make a decision on who's responsible, unless you can show there is a mechanism that can properly measure this responsibility, we say it's difficult to say that this policy would pass knowing who would actually take responsibility at the end of the day. So it's difficult to measure the certain responsibility. We don't think it's something that anyone should encourage and anyone should do, especially when the status quo is enough, Mr. Speaker. So therefore, we on the opposition side would like to oppose what the government has provided to us. Thank you.
Right, I thank the Speaker for her speech and invite the second Speaker of Opening Government, the Deputy Prime Minister.
Today, in the opposition side speech, they've been telling us that websites has been taking responsibilities. But in the status quo, the fact is, unless you have those false information posted on the website for so long a time, the negative effect will not take place at all. And the long time of the existence information implies that website is not taking responsibilities at all. And today, our previous speaker has been telling you is that how serious the situation is right now, that we have to take measure to solve this problem, and how the justification, how accusing the website is justifiable. And justification is that we already know, and as agreement of both sides, that websites has the technology to know what the content of the articles are, and as soon as the articles are posted on the website, because it is the website that get articles and post it to the websites. And the status quo is that even if they know what the articles are, they didn't take the responsibility to erase those false informations as soon as they see it. And that is the problem we want to solve right now. And also, knowing it, they've been telling us that it is the intent to harm that it is the intent to harm is the only reason for you to accuse somebody, but that's not the case. Because just think about the case of murderer. Murderer himself is of course a criminal, but a person who knows that person is a criminal and keep him in the house is also a criminal. And in this case, the website knows that these false informations are to be accused, and they still kept that on the website for such a long time, which justifies they should be accused of violating people's rights. Not yet. And they're saying that and the websites has been solving the problems and they've been erasing it, but we see that's not the case at all, because that is the reason why we're talking about it today in the first place. Because the false information are on the websites for such a long time, and websites didn't take any responsibilities to supervise that. That's the problems we want to solve right now. And today, my case will be the benefits and losses in this motion, and I have 4 levels of analysis. The first one is the protection of individual reputations as a victims. And our previous speaker has been telling you that how massive the effects of the false informations are, and would like to divide the individuals into 2 parts, which are the public figures and private figures. Just like what we said, just like what we saw in the videos before, there are public figures suffering from those false information for no reasons. They didn't do anything wrong, but they suffer from the false information.
Sure.
We think that is totally unfair for them, and we think it is government's role to intervene to solve this, to prevent these crimes from happening in the first place. And we are able to do that, as we already have the technologies, and it is the websites that are not taking the responsibility. Yes, go ahead.
Sir, you still have to prove that internet content hosts knowingly encouraged these articles and that they did nothing to somehow eliminate these articles.
That's what it's been proving to you, that they already have the technology of knowing the contents of the articles as agreement between the both sides. And also the fact that the negative effects has been existing implies that the false informations have been existing for such a long time. And because websites have the technology capacities to know what false informations are existing in the websites, so we know that websites are not taking full responsibilities supervising those false informations. That's a full logic. I don't know why you get it. No, thank you. And we see that in my public figures arguments, we see that there is massive social potential effects to the public figures and the society as a whole, because we think that public figures also have an influence to the society and the image, and ruining that image itself is a harm to the society. And also to the private figures, we think that people who are not public figures are the minorities, and their rights are the right and the very rights that the government should be protecting. And we are not doing that. If we are not doing that, we will fail our jobs. The second level of analysis is the social atmosphere and the bettering of information's reliability. And for that, I have two levels of analysis. The first one is that there has been a slandering atmosphere in the society, that people are thinking that as long as we hate somebody, we can just post something on the website and we will not be accused at all, because we can post something without using our real name, and websites are not supervising at all, and the information can keep that for such a long time that the effects can be existing and can be massive. Even if it can be erased later on, the effects are already existing, and we're not taking any responsibility. And we think that is totally jeopardizing the social atmosphere, because, ladies and gentlemen, people are not having the right way of competition. They just want to slander people instead of doing anything else. And we think that's totally jeopardizing the social atmosphere. And we think we should do something right now. And no, thank you. Also, because the information on the websites has been so false, and the false information has been taken such a huge proportion on the websites, that people are not trusting the information on the websites. And we think that is also a harm to the people, of the audience, of the viewers of information in the society. And we think it is our responsibility to ensure that the information on websites are real and not about slandering or false information. The third level's analysis is the reliability of information and websites to the website itself. We think that there is a fundamental harm to the website itself, as it has so much false information, and we think it is also for websites good to ensure that it has all true information and ensure that people trusting the websites. We think that is good for the websites for the long run, and we're doing the right thing for all the players in the society. And the fourth one is the government's image and the roles to protect the rights. And it is government's role to protect individuals' rights, and we think governments should take responsibilities, as there is already a slandering going on. So far, the websites are liable, and they should be accused. So far, therefore, we're proud to propose. Thank you very much.
Right, we thank the Deputy Prime Minister for his speech, and now invite the Deputy Leader of Opposition to take the floor.
Mr. Speaker, we just want to point out, firstly, from side opposition, that they did admit on side government that the person who is posting the information on these internet content hosts, services, is actually the one that should take more blame, Mr. Speaker, than the content hosts themselves. They never justified why they thought that kind of distinction should exist. But that's exactly the point from opening opposition, Mr. Speaker. If you admit that these internet content hosts are not as responsible as the people that are posting the content online, we think that we need to stand up for these internet content hosts and recognize that the level of intention that the actual bloggers have as opposed to the internet content hosts is quite different, Mr. Speaker, and therefore we think it's much more harmful and unjustified when we actually resort that level of responsibility, any level of responsibility, unto those internet content hosts. What we're going to tell you in opening opposition, Mr. Speaker, is very clear. As already elaborated by my leader of opposition, we're going to tell you why we think this responsibility is not something that should fall on the individual, why we think it should fall on the individual alone, Mr. Speaker. Why we think that the internet content hosts should not have any kind of responsibility when it comes to paying a fine or being punished in any way as under their model, Mr. Speaker. So before I go into my substantive points about why we believe there are actually harms as a result of the policy that they go for today, and how this actually goes against the interests of these internet content hosts, Mr. Speaker, a few points of rebuttal. Firstly, Mr. Speaker, we think that their whole parallel example about a murderer being kept at the home of another person isn't very relevant in this case. Because in that case, you have that individual actively taking a part and actively wanting to intend to protect that murderer from being caught, Mr. Speaker. You have no proof on your side that says that those internet content hosts are knowingly and intentionally providing that information, Mr. Speaker. So you can't actually make that kind of absolute argument or absolute kind of logical reference and say that those two things are exactly the same. We also say, Mr. Speaker, that on another level, that you have to recognize the purpose of existence of these internet content hosts. And the reason why they're there is to make different views available, Mr. Speaker. We think that when you force these internet content hosts to actually take a position to evaluate information against their own interests, that this is very unfair. This is something that I'm actually going to elaborate on in my substantive. But finally, Mr. Speaker, we just want to make a very simple rebuttal against the entire speech, basically, about what the Deputy Prime Minister has said. We don't know if your policy is actually going to solve that slanderous atmosphere that you actually said is a problem in the status. We don't see a government side that actually has a clear policy that will actually have any solvency for the problems that they actually proposed at the beginning of this debate, Mr. Speaker. Because we do agree that there are harms as a result of defamatory articles, but depending on who you punish, Mr. Speaker, we think that it's actually very socially, that it actually contributes to social consciousness about who is actually responsible, Mr. Speaker, and therefore who should actually be taking the blame. Mr. Speaker, we think that we actually agree that these harms exist. That is why we think that the poster himself or the person that actually, the blogger himself that actually posted that information should be punished. But we don't see any reason why these internet content hosts should be punished just for the reason that they made this information available. Yes?
We're saying that hosts are partially responsible because they are bystanders of criminal action when they have a capacity to prevent the crime.
So, Mr. Speaker, this is exactly the point that I actually wanted to rebut. They're placing the blame on internet content hosts for their lack of capability in dealing with the information, Mr. Speaker, not exactly their level of intention, Mr. Speaker. We think this is quite unfair because, as we told you from the leader of opposition space, these internet content hosts, for their own interests, are actually taking part in deleting certain posts that they figure are going to be too obnoxious, Mr. Speaker, or too offensive to the person that they're talking about. We think that these things are actually already being undertaken in the status quo, and you can't just say that all these problems that take place as a result of defamatory articles are a result of the incapability of these internet content hosts. And even if it is, Mr. Speaker, we don't think that your lack of capability should actually resort to you taking all that responsibility for the harms that actually took place. Mr. Speaker, we think that, for example, when a police doesn't have the capability or was not able to catch someone, we don't hold that police accountable for having the potential to have stopped that crime, Mr. Speaker. Exactly. That is why we think that these internet content hosts shouldn't be punished for their lack of capability. But you can't just claim that just because they have technology, they can stop these harms every single time, Mr. Speaker. That is why we don't think that responsibility should fall. So now into my substance about why we believe this is actually going to bring harm. Mr. Speaker, I'm going to talk about this on two different levels. Firstly, we think that it's actually a disincentive for these internet content hosts. When you actually resort this much responsibility on these internet content content hosts, Mr. Speaker, and hold them responsible and make them pay fines and whatever. We think that it has certain obvious harms, such as that company or that content having to pay a certain amount, Mr. Speaker, and in the realm of business, this would actually be against their interest, right? But we also think that this also has a harm on their corporate image, that once an internet content host is seen to have taken liability for something that was made available on their own website, that we think that this has detrimental effects on the corporate image of that content host itself. And we think that when these internet contents are already competing at such a level, that it's really unfair to put these companies in such a disadvantageous position, because they're already doing what they can in the status quo, Mr. Speaker, and you can't actually make them fall into that responsibility where they actually have to take that amount of responsibility that the blogger himself is doing when he has that intention. But secondly, Mr. Speaker, I want to talk about why we believe this actually has harms in regard to resorting responsibility, Mr. Speaker. We think that the implication that the internet content host has lesser or even equal responsibility to the blogger himself is harmful. Why? Because we say that these bloggers themselves do have more responsibility as agreed by opening government, Mr. Speaker. But when intention is outweighed by how available information is, or your capability in regards to that availability, we think that that type of blame falls on the wrong person. We think that this liability does not, we think that this creates an implication that this liability doesn't fall as much on the person that actually posted it, but on the person that made it available. We think these are two very separate things. But we think that defamation itself becomes excusable, Mr. Speaker, because when a blogger actually intends to put that kind of defamatory article, but someone else didn't stop it, Mr. Speaker, wasn't able to prevent it, we think that these two people are completely different actors, right? But they are saying that this person should have been excused and should have been prevented, and in that case, you're actually saying that the person who put that defamatory article is at the same level with that other individual, and we think that in that case, it's very dangerous because you're not putting the right amount of blame on the actor that actually should be taking responsibility. So what have we on opening opposition basically provided for you, Mr. Speaker? We told you that there's this very important principle of intention when you want to punish certain parties. And we told you that they cannot prove that certain internet content hosts have that intention to purposely spread those kinds of information, Mr. Speaker. But moreover, we told you that it's very unfair for the business interests of these companies, and furthermore that it creates the implication that you who have that who posted that defamatory article doesn't have that much responsibility because you could have been prevented. We think this is harmful. You never proved how your policy is going to solve all the problems you wanted at the end of the day, and therefore we are very proud to oppose.
Right. We thank the Speaker for her speech and invite the first Speaker of closing government, the Member of Government.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Before I go on, I'm really happy to be here since both of the government side and the first opposition are agreeing with the censoring itself. They're not saying that it is actually against the freedom of speech or against the freedom of expression, but they do acknowledge that if they create a certain harm or extreme harm to the society, the government or the portal, the internet portal itself had a right to engage and to prevent the problem. Before I go on, I would like to set the clear stance for our side of the bench. We say is that in the status quo, it is not enough to protect the people who are openly exposed to not right information. What we say is that the current reaction from internet portal or internet website are not enough. So what we say is that we should put more responsibility on the internet portal itself. Before I go on, I would like to make two rebuttals for the previous speaker. First, about the disincentive for the internet content holder. They say it might be actually like harmful for them, or it is actually unfair for them to actually compete with other competitors. Because they will have like a bad corporate image. What we say is that that is the point that we would like to impose this one. We would like to actually make more burden or give more motivation for them to actually engage actively to prevent this issue. And also the implication, they say like the level of the responsibility is totally different. That is why we say we should actually pose partially responsibility for internet hosts, because what we say is that, as we mentioned before, the mutually internet contents are mutually created media, and actually in the realm of the cyberspace or domain of the cyberspace, the host is the internet contents host. So what we say is that they have a right to protect their members or protect their people who are in the cyber domain. So what we see is that they do have a responsibility. So for my substantive argument, I have mainly two big arguments. First, I'm going to talk about how actually there is a justification for asking responsibility to Internet Portal itself in two levels. First, I'm going to talk about how Internet Portal has a responsibility to protect its members. And secondly, I'm going to talk about how the Internet Portal itself has a intention for this issue. And lastly, I'm going to talk about the positive consequences for this policy. First, about the justification for asking partial responsibility to Internet Portal. As I mentioned before, we are not saying that exchangement of ideas or discussion or posting the arguments are wrong, but what we say is that if one's freedom of speech harms another person's freedom of speech or freedom itself, we should actually regulate it. What the opposition side was saying, that it is actually in the status quo, it is actually done properly, and in the status quo, they're actually doing the action as an Internet Portal. But what we say is that it is not enough. Like the government protect their citizens who live within the territory, or like teacher or principals are in charge of the incidents or accidents that are caused within the school territory. What we say is that within the cyber domain itself, the host of the internet content or internet portal has a right and has a responsibility to engage in and actually protect their membership. Actually, what we say is that as we actually are able to log on or able to actually posting the arguments on the website, we should actually have a membership, and we should actually agree on those kind of regulations or laws to be actively act within the internet domain. So what we say is that those kind of harm have to be actually monitored and censored by the Internet Portal, who has a right to do it. They should actually keep monitoring them, as we actually don't show the porn to the minors, or as we actually clearing them out of the partisan ideology in South Korea. What we say is that those kind of extreme harm that is created by defamatory articles should be actually regulated by the host itself. And actually, at least even if it is not actually censored, they should actually regularly or even wording them that it might be actually containing not exactly right contents, but they didn't do that kind of things, and they didn't actually give awakening to the portal user. What we say is that is actually responsible. That is actually lack of the responsibility. Yes, ma'am.
So when companies are doing this, you're basically saying they cannot prevent it every time. How are they incentivized to continue providing any service if we keep disincentivizing them?
Actually, I can actually answer that in this section. I'm going to talk about how their internet contents host portal have an intention, or how they have been the benefactor of this kind of incident itself. As I mentioned before, Tableau incident or Tableau's case, how we actually know about it and how those kind of incidents are spreading out, it was actually regulated or actually motivated by the portal itself. For example, Naver, they have a system, they showing the ranking for mostly searched posting. They say like number 1, Tableau, number 2, Tableau Stanford, number 3, Tableau, is he really going to Stanford? Actually, that kind of contents are actually showing regularly on the top rankings, and they're actually attracting people to click on and see it, and actually they have a lot of increasement in the membership, and they might have a lot of interest in terms of advertise on the portals, or they have a lot of commercial interest in terms of getting many people into their website. What we say is that those kind of posting the ranking systems, or those kind of showing those kind of Tableau cases on the front page of the portal, it shows that their intention, or it shows that they're actually benefited by the case itself. So what we see is that this is actually asked by, or this is actually planned by the portal itself. So what we say is that they do have a responsibility to actually spreading this uncertain issue to the top front page. What we say is that is a problematic. And lastly, I'm going to talk about how the positive consequences of this policy will bring at the end of the debate. What we say is that we could actually send in a nice, good message to the society in terms of the internet portal hosters or individuals. As I mentioned before, by asking them for thorough monitoring or thorough censorship, it will actually give portals to have a motivate or burden to actually follow more thorough rule to actually protect their membership. And also for individual, if we actually tackle on the company level, they might actually awake from those kind of they might actually aware the seriousness of the issue, and it will actually promote like friendly discussion, the friendly atmosphere for a healthy discussion.
Right, thank the speaker for her speech and invite the member of opposition, the first speech of closing opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a member of opposition, first of all, I would like to rebut, and I don't really see why is it really necessary to give the responsibility to the content host, and the government. The government should focus on the articles, not just blame their content hosts who just give them the place to express their opinion. And and the government says that the content hosts don't really take an action, but we already know that, for example, in the Naver or some site, if someone writes the slangs or something, in an hour, it just automatically eliminated. And it's the kind of that responsibility, and it's obvious that they are taking actions, and so that's why we don't just punish them because of the giving the place. And now in the status quo, we don't see any problem with that content host, and because that law is already exists, and we punish the people who write the wrong and some bad articles. And okay, let's move on to my three arguments. That first of all, that's the freedom of choice, freedom of express their opinion, and we believe that in the Korea, we really developed country like in the IT industry, and we strongly believe that it can cause many problems, like some internet users cannot exchange their opinion freely, and it can decrease the IT industry. And the thing is that critic people are really need in our society, and so we have to so if this motion passed, it can cause a problem of the freedom to express their opinion. And let's move on to my second argument, and I'd like to talk about the feasibility. And we don't see any standard, that if there is any proper standard, and how can we judge that it's really defamatory articles, and why should the company get the punishment?
like if we chose that kind of article, we have to ask them if they feel hurt. And secondly, the cost, there is no feasibility. Nobody wants to hire the person who have to look up all the articles. And thirdly, I'd like to talk about the practicality. And now we already have the law, the criminal who writes really defamatory articles. They already get the punishment. And actually the company get the damage. Like for example, in Korea, that if in the newspaper, some reporter writes kind of wrong articles, and then they just people don't. It's going to be really big issues, and people just don't want to don't want to read the newspaper, and the newspaper company images is going down. And actually the company get the punishment, not the physically, but in the people's intention. So we don't see any reason why that the content host must get the punishment, like responsibility. So we believe that it's a waste of time and the money. As I said, the first of all, waste of time means we should focus on the criminals, not individually, not to the company. And waste of money means who just wanna pay for this. And what I've talked to today, first of all, the freedom of express, we can decrease the freedom of express, and second, there is no feasibility, and third, there is no practicality. Thank you for listening.
Right, I thank the speaker for her speech. For the final speech on the government bench, we now invite the government whip.
Thank you, dear educator. As a whip from the government, I would like to start with the quote from the previous speaker. She just said in the podium that who just give them the place is the portal site, and they are just giving it just for the sake of expressing the opinion of the other people. And at that point, we would like to ask two questions. First, what kind of opinion is that? We say that this is actually leading into the defamatory article, so we say that the level of the opinion and the expression, that should be actually limited. And the second level is that they say that they are just giving out the place because it is the place that they should share opinion. But however, we say at the same time that when they are opening up a place to publicly attack someone else by using their own place, they do not monitor or they do not regulate. And we say that this is not actually practiced enough in the status quo. So on that, basically on those 2 points, I would like to reorganize this debate into two questions. First clash is that whether the website host actually has a responsibility or not, and that is in the 3 levels. And the second clash is that the benefit and effect and the outcome, that how this would actually lead to a better place. So let's start with the responsibility of the web. First level, the opening opposition come up here and have said that they are already taking the responsibility by taking down the article or any other articles that's being problematic. But let's see the case of the Tableau. Was it effective? Was it efficient? We say that no, it was too late. After what's the most scary thing about the rumor is not just because it is started in a small place, but rather it is expanded throughout the internet. And we say that that is the critical part that the internet host is actually having, and that is the capacity that they are actually holding on. And especially when it comes to the rumor or defamatory article for these public figures, we say that these kind of spreading out effect is something that the internet host is actually having the capability to control. So on that point, we say that
on that point,
on that point, we say that they did not actually do the responsibility fully. So we say that they still need to take the responsibility because of these actions. And the second level about the responsibility of the web, and this I would like to especially highlight following to our member of the government. We have told you that how this is not just actually giving out the space, but rather there are some benefits that is leading into the website host itself. If you see the first to the 10 ranking when you go into the neighbor or any other portal website, you have these kind of certain emotional, psychological attraction that you need to actually click it and be a part of the Agra or any part that you need to actually be a part of that kind of news that is actually posted on the website. So by that we say that they are actually trying to attract the people by using these kind of defamatory or any other rumors that is actually posted in their website, and these the number of the clicks and the logins and any other memberships, that is actually direct benefit to the host. So we say that that's the point that that they are actually missing, that how they do have these intention that is leading to the benefits, leading to the benefits of the website itself. So we say that there is certainly an intention, and also moving to the the last level of the responsibility, that how they should have the responsibility. If you see that when there is a children in the school, when there's 2 kids are fighting, we say that there is actually certain liability that goes to the school or the principal or the teacher who is actually taking care of that boundary or the territory. So we say that the same equation is actually applying to these kind of places, because just because it is cyberspace, just because there is not actually people like living in the computer, we say that this is also a society that is actually created by the members, and that is actually the place that the people are sharing and thinking as another some kind of cyber place within their life. So we say that still there should be some kind of liability or responsibility going to the caretaker who is actually owning the website, and also to the host not yet. So on that point, because it is defamatory, we say that the spreading out effect is more important, and because it's internet, we say that the effect is more going up and up. So when opening up a place just to publicly criticize someone else, not having any kind of regulation or monitoring system, or having something monitoring system which is not actually enough, we say that that is something that we should actually ask the responsibility to the web owners in these things. Yes.
Ma'am, if you punish the people who actually post this information online, don't you think this will actually prevent the problems that you're talking about?
Let's talk about this once again. Because it's not just the one person's problem that the rumor is getting this big and influencing the society level. We say that just because I blame Tableau right here by myself, it's not something that's affecting the society as a whole. But because there is a place which is actually the host of the website is opening up freely and publicly to criticize someone else, that is the place when that is actually getting more bigger and getting more influential. So that is the point that we want to ask the liability to the web host, not now. And also moving on to the second clashes in this debate, the benefit and effect and the outcome, that how this policy would actually lead to more benefits in our society. They have said that this incentive the web host, because the corporation image would get bad, and this is actually harmful to these web hosts. But however, we say that if there are the responsibility, the liability that they need to actually take, so we say that this would give them the incentive to create the pool and the monitor the contents that is actually flowing within their boundary. So we say that that is something that's going to work healthier within the boundary of the host. So we say that that is actually a benefit that could come up by following up our own policy. So as I've said, and also included to the same point, we say that since in this debate everyone have agreed on the point that how the freedom of expression, how there should be some kind of liability if there is some kind of critics or that there is some kind of defamatory articles. We say that it's not a matter of the which freedom should go first, but rather why the partial liability is actually lying to the web host. So on those points, I once again want to re-emphasize that how there is an intention within for the web host, and moreover, rumors are not scary just because they have started, but rather they are scary because they are spreading out so fast. And we see the internet is something that is actually encouraging. So by all those reasons, we are actually very proud to propose. Thank you.
Right, we thank the speaker for her speech. For the last speech of this round, we now invite the opposition whip.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really happy to be here tonight. This opening side, we never believed that this house to make internet content host a particular library for documentary article created by other work posted on its service. We never accept this motion. Today I'm going to talk about first the rebut and second is our strong press point 2 points. First of all, I want to rebut the government side. She said the portal also have to have the responsibility, but that person who is mentioned the very bad word or something bad article, it's also their customer. How can the portal ban the people and keep going their company? It is I'm ridiculous. How can they keep going? They maintain their system. And also the internet. If they already as the she said, internet. If someone posted on the internet some article, it is spread very fast. So how can ban the every post down on? It is impossible. And also, if someone write down on the article, it is also people not portal. So we have to give some punishment to the person. So already we have the law. So it makes sense of the government side. Okay, our next one, the class point. My first class point is responsibility, and second point is feasibility. What's your point?
If you think that it's only the problem of the individual, don't you think that the place is actually
I got your point.
more?
I already talked about later. It is also my very big part of the answer. Okay. The responsibility, first class point is the responsibility. Which side the responsibility? Government or company or person? I don't know exactly whose responsibility. The government, of course, they want to give the responsibility to the company, but why victim is if the victim tell the website or police, they can put down the article, and also it is a law our society, especially in Korea. So why internet content hosts never do anything, even though never do anything, they have to have the responsibility and the punishment, or they have to spend the cost. I don't understand. It is unfair. And also I don't understand what is the standard.
Here.
Who is make it is a bad word, it is a good article, it is I can understand how can we find the which one is good or bad. I don't understand. So I don't know how our government never mentioned about the how can the responsibility to the company and give the responsibility and treatment and everything. So I don't understand. And my second price point is feasibility. As I told you, how can the company have to find the defamatory article side by side? I don't understand. It is very difficult. And what is the standard? And if we have to, if we should accept this motion, who should give the cost? The government or company or someone? Maybe government give the responsibility to pay the cost for to the company, neighbor or down. They also company. They wanna they wanna earn the money. It is true. So they wanna pay more money or more price. It is also problem.
No.
I'm not sorry. And also, the internet content host, neighbor or DOM or etc. Maybe they are also very big companies, so it is easy to treat the manager or something to the bad article. But how about the personal blog or personal website? Personal website also have personal website when they posted their article. They never think about I'm fine or I'm bad. They always think about I'm very good. I have a good idea, so they post it on. So how can treatment them? So I don't understand what how can treatment all of them. So all these reasons I extremely disagree. We accept this motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank all the speakers. Invite you to cross the floor, shake hands.